Good evening, White Sox fans. Another Wednesday has rolled around. Today is May 14th, and this is Hot Takes and Heaters. My name is Danny Miller. My co host sitting over, oh, wait, this way, that way.
Weird.
That would be Mr. Jacob Thome. How you doing tonight, Jacob?
We're hanging in there, enjoying finally a good White Sox series.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. We're seeing a little bit better brand of baseball here lately, even in some tough losses. But yeah, man, I mean, it's been easier watch. We'll say that. How about that? So, how was your week, brother? You got anything exciting going on?
Not really. I don't think so. I think it's been
Oh, dude, you're killing
went
me
to
here, Smalls. We're doing a
listen.
show here. You got
Yeah, I
nothing.
know. I don't have anything entertaining. You know what? No. Let me think if I can. No, I seriously don't. I went to the Sox game on Saturday. Saturday.
Hey,
Went to the Brookfield Zoo on Saturday as well. And now my
did
girlfriend's
you?
convinced that we need to buy a duck. Reminder: I live in a 2-bedroom apartment on the second floor, so a duck will not be bought
How do you walk a duck?
with a leash.
Do they have leashes for ducks now?
I think so.
Is
I
that a
think you
thing?
like clip their wings so they can't fly away. How many? Here's we'll get off track early. How many ducks do you think you would take to like on a leash to like fly at the same time and you to be lifted with it?
Okay, we're not even gonna go down that road. Like this,
15? I bet you. Bet you
it's gonna be
15.
more than 15. I mean, dude, I'm a pretty heavy guy. You know, I'm I'm
I guess that's
I'm
true. I guess it depends on the weight of the person.
I'm over 6 feet tall, and I'm clocking in about 240 these days. So yeah, 250 somewhere in there. Yeah. Anywho, all right, we're just gonna stop that. We're gonna get into some White Sox baseball. Like I said, it is the 14th. The White Sox are currently in Game 3 against the Cincinnati Reds. Game 3, Game 2,
Those.
Game 2. Yeah, sorry, my bad. They had to walk off last night. If you were paying attention, White Sox in extra innings tag on 4 runs in the 10th, topped off by a Miguel Vargas 3-run bomb to take the first game of the set. And we are currently in the 7th inning. We're actually in between innings right now as I look up at the old boob tube. And the White Sox have a commanding lead. Honestly, for a Reds team that's struggling to score runs here lately, I'll call a 4-0 lead a commanding lead with a bunch of dingers here tonight. So good
Yep.
stuff going on. Like I said, it's been more fun of a watch lately. So let's get into that. How it's been a more fun watch lately, Jacob. Well, you got some thoughts on this?
It
You
has
you asked me a
been.
question right before the show. Why don't you ask the chat
Yeah.
that same question?
Chad, do we think the White Sox are officially fun bad? I think the answer is yes. Listen, the chat beat me to it. 17 Silks. Sox are approaching fun territory. I think they're already there. I'm having fun. I genuinely enjoyed watching last night's game. Vargas hits a massive shot there in the 10th. I thought they were going to blow it again, but they didn't. By the
Yeah,
way, that Steven Wilson sweeper might have been the worst pitch I've ever seen. 83-mile-per-hour sweeper down the middle.
yeah. It was a tough watch for that to happen, but here we go. We're uh, we're walking away with a W in Cincinnati on the same day that it was announced that Pete Rose will have his ban lifted from baseball and could potentially be posthumously added to the Hall. That just depends on how the writers feel about that whole situation. But, you know, on a day like that, you'd think the Reds would come out swinging and playing tough and looking to be winners after struggling a little bit here as of late against a bad White Sox team. And lo and behold, White Sox come through in the 10th inning. So nice to see that they're not quitting early on in games. So, and yeah, Toss comes into the chat saying Montgomery with another homer. So yeah, Braden tearing it up. We always love to see that. I think we might actually have a bat in the minors that we can be proud of right now between him and there's that other guy that's way down there in the A levels that's doing some things, but might potentially be the big trade piece that came over. So although man, my boy Vargas,
Yeah.
on a tear, brother, on a tear. So we're gonna get into
We'll put
all.
Netflix on there.
We're gonna talk a little bit about some Lewis Robert rumors that have come up recently, but you know, I really don't have much of a direction tonight because I've been working redonkulous hours and got walked in the door probably about 15 minutes before we went live here, 20 minutes before we went live. So, Jake, you had a couple of hot topics that you wanted to talk about and get off your chest. You want to throw something out there for us in the chat to nibble on
Listen,
for?
I think we've started with this topic 2 weeks in a row. Make it three. Tim Elko finally gets the call up. Hits
There
a
you go.
dinger on Mother's Day. Had a hit today. Doing some things. Good to see him up. He is struggling. I know he's hitting a buck 54 right now, but the strikeouts have been a concern. But listen, it's good to have him up here. At least he's seeing professional pitchers playing a good first base. It's nice when you're not throwing to a 5'8" first baseman. No offense, Andrew Vaughn, who's also hitting the ball very well. Um, but yeah, it's nice to see him finally make it up here and see what he's able to do. It'll also be interesting to see what they do when more injury people come back because there's some rehab assignments starting, and I wonder if he gets sent back down. I think there'd be pitchforks, which I honestly don't think him getting sent back down is a insane thought right now. But
See, now
we'll keep it positive for now.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm actually on the other side of that fence. I don't believe that you take a guy like Elko and bring him up at this point in the season and start his clock just to give him a handful of games and a handful of bats and send him back down when he was absolutely on a tear down at Charlotte. Uh, and then the other thing too is, I guess you could make the excuse that maybe the pressure applied by bringing Elko up is kind of turned to something in Vaughn. Maybe some tweets that went out recently. Maybe applied some pressure to Vaughn, and I don't know. There's a lot of things that you could kind of point at the turnaround in Andrew Vaughn. You can say that the metrics that we've been talking about, so far this season, and pretty much his whole career of him being unlucky and having a little issue with just not being able to put balls in holes or put them in the right places to fall in. All those things could be a possibility of why Andrew Vaughn's kind of getting hot right now. But I think at this stage in the season as well, and because of his track record that
Mm-hmm.
we've been talking about, I personally think you leave Tim Elko up there to get his time. And he's not a spring chicken. He's not your typical guy, 23 years old, coming out of AAA. He's a little bit older. So you mentioned as well, he's playing some good defense. Let him get through his struggles. We can't put these guys out here to just come up and fail for a week and not give them an opportunity to kind of figure it out. It's a big jump going from AAA to MLB, regardless of how you want to cut it. I know a lot of people will say, it's one level, but that one level is it's a steep one. So
Yeah. No,
just my
I
thoughts on that.
wholeheartedly agree. I have seen Elko being sent back down and floated out there, which I wouldn't enjoy seeing, but has been floated.
So since we're on the topic and the chat's bringing it up, Toss, excuse me, Toss asks, does Caro stay up? And he says he thinks he should, and I don't see any reason why they send him back down at this point. He can. He's the type of guy who's he's got a fantastic eye.
Mm-hmm.
He finds ways to get on base. He moves really well for a catcher, and even if he goes through some struggles, you're going to let him go through those growing pains, I think. You
Yeah,
any
hundred
thoughts on
percent
that,
agree.
Jacob?
I mean, obviously, you're bringing Corey Lee up soon, which will be like that'll be really an interesting test because then you're right now struck with two first basemen, two catchers. Potentially to add a third would be kind of hard, especially when you want to have when you have as many middle infielders as you have. Um, we'll see. Toss adds in that he likes to see more power. He's still without a barrel this year. Um, but he's hitting 300. I mean, how much more do you want from a guy like that? And he's playing good defense. He hosed, came at third yesterday. So I've been really impressed with him. I think he belongs here. He was a guy who a lot of people noted, hey, this is a guy who's going to make this kind of the jump to the MLB pretty seamlessly just because of his approach to the plate. That's been true. So we'll see what happens here with him going forward. But I would very much expect him to stay there. Obviously, I think that the bigger question is Corey Lee because you're not getting rid of Matt Thaiss. As of right now, I think he's a trade deadline candidate, but until the trade deadline, I don't think you're getting rid of him. So we'll see. They have an interesting issue behind the plate, which is weird because they've been pretty bad behind the plate for a very long time.
Yeah. We go back to the time when Yasmani Grandal was brought over, and I think most of us, I mean myself, I was the first one to be guilty to say, "Holy crap!" The White Sox went out and got probably at that time probably the second best catcher in baseball, or at least we thought he was. He comes over here, he has a decent first year, and then kind of just starts to fall off, and it didn't quite work out the way we hoped. And then it's just been a mishmash of bad ever since, right? So during the offseason, we talked about that direction a little bit, or well, we've talked about it, in spring before the regular season got going, but we talked about the direction that the White Sox took in the offseason with just adding catcher after catcher after catcher at every level of the organization. And I think they had a purpose, and that purpose was, number one, we need to find our future behind the dish. And since we're going to be bringing up all these young pitching prospects over the next couple of seasons, why not allow those pitchers to come up with the catchers who are also going to be making their way up? So you gotta find the guy that is going to be battery mates with your pitchers, and you're also kind of hoping that maybe you find the diamond in the rough. And in the meantime, if you find a couple of them, because catchers are such a hot commodity in baseball, where it's very difficult to find one who's defensively sound, has a gun, and can hit the ball a little bit. Maybe you come up with a couple of those guys. Those become super hot trade pieces down the line, and you can help build your organization that way. So it is definitely going to be interesting to see what they do when Corey Lee comes up. There's a chance that we might see the White Sox carry three catchers for a while, but then you got to wonder who bites the bullet at that point. We've got a handful of middle infielders and even some corner infielders now that are, kind of moving around and bouncing from position to position. So tough decisions for the front office there. So
you didn't enjoy watching Carlos Perez play, or Reese McGuire? I won't say that on here. I'll keep that out of here. But you didn't enjoy watching those guys pick at bats?
Spanky. And we're not talking about Adam Eaton. Yeah. But
we'll leave it at that.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, Reese McGuire actually had some decent, well, I was going to say spurts with the White Sox, but he had some little, runs that he went on that were okay. And I'm going to stop with the really bad puns right now. So, but I mean, he did actually have some times that went well for him here. There are some other names that you could go down on that list. Toss brings up Sebi Zavala in the chat, and it was unfortunate. We all had high hopes for Sebi when he was coming up through the system. That didn't work out. I mean, Narvaez had his ups and downs with the team. There's just been so many.
Zach Collins, another field.
Zach Collins, huge potential. None of it ever really, evolved into anything at all at the major league level. So, yeah, tough sledding behind the plate for the White Sox. You got to take this away from me before I start throwing more Reese McGuire puns out, dude. Please. Let's move on.
Just saying, I heard you hit one of the parking lot, but do not look up Reese McGuire parking lot. Moving on.
Okay.
Moving on. Let's talk trades. You want to talk Luis Robert?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the rumors that have come out recently.
There was a Mets pitcher prospect that was thrown out there. I think there was some other names kind of. Obviously, he's the hottest trade candidate. I mean, it was him and Sandy kind of heading into the into the trade deadline, but Sandy, as we all saw on Sunday, not doing too hot. So it's really just all about Luis Robert right now, and the White Sox kind of putting some feelers out there for the deadline.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think most folks by now, this is probably going back about 3 days at this point. Most folks know by now that Bob Nightingale came out with one of his famous White Sox leaks in a USA Today article saying that the Mets had now entered the chat when it comes to Luis Robert and potential trades. And we know that the name that he dropped that the White Sox apparently are eyeballing is the number 15 overall prospect in their organization, and that's was it Blake Tidwell? Is it
Yeah, I think
Tidwell?
that's his first name, something like that.
It, Tidwell. And the immediate reaction that I saw on the socials, and Twitter/X, Facebook, all over the place was, man, is this really what we're looking at right now? The number 15 prospect in the Mets organization, completely unranked by MLB or BBREF or any of the other, 10 other places you might be able to find a top 100. Almost feels like, well, if this is what we're looking at, like, what are we doing?
Right.
So, do you have any thoughts on that original leak?
Well, I will say this. I think it was more leaked as that was a name they're interested in, not like the headliner. I would assume that there's another prospect linked in there or a young player as well. But, I think, with the way that the White Sox are performing right now, 6-6 in May, um, I have to kind of wonder, like, how close is this team? Obviously, kind of beginning of the year, we're like, all right, this team's at least 3 years away. And I'm not saying that the White Sox should be contending for a title next season, but like, if you add Braden Montgomery, obviously you add Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith. Both those players are expected to be in the rotation at some point next season. You start adding that to an already good rotation. Obviously, to figure out the bullpen. We'll talk about Grant Taylor here in a little bit, but how far away are you? Is it obviously, I think you've hit the rock bottom of the rebuild. You're now on the way up. It's just how close are you to being back into contention, being back into 2020 White Sox where they made the postseason. I don't think they're a postseason contender next year, but I think you strongly look at the year after that, where I believe Luis has 2 more years on his deal. Both I think are $20 million club options. We'll see. And obviously, Luis isn't lighting it up with the bat by any means, but he's putting together some good at bats. His walk rate's up. The defense is fantastic, and he's been really good on the bases. He's leading the MLB in steals as of the first inning. So, or
Yeah,
second.
he got his 17th
Yeah.
tonight. So, yeah, I'm with you. And my thought, and I brought this up. I think it was my hot take last week. As a matter of fact, that I still have a feeling that the Sox and Chris Getz are holding out for a deal that's built more on Luis Roberts' potential than his production over the last year and a half to 2 years. And honestly, yes. So when you bring up Blake Tidwell in a conversation about Luis Robert, it's rightfully so that people are going to lose their minds about, whoa, like, what is this? And now, in Bob Nightingale's defense, he did say it was as part of a deal. Obviously, this isn't going to be the only piece coming over. And like you said, I think it's just something that the White Sox had kind of maybe leaked, or some news somewhere got out that they were eyeballing a pitcher, which is right up the White Sox alley. They develop pitchers better than any other place, anything else in their system. Have one for a long time. But, we look at players like, Miguel Vargas, since his swing change, has been absolutely on fire. So maybe there's somebody in this organization that actually does know what they're doing with bats. Maybe it's going to take a year or two for things to come around. But, you kind of hope that somewhere in this deal, you're going to get a much higher rated prospect.
Yeah.
And one of the names, like, so I saw Toss, he brought up the name Jet Williams in the chat. And I know Jet Williams has played a bunch of shortstop, but he's also played some outfield, center field. I don't really know a lot about him, but I want to say, like, if I look this up real quick, I want to say he's top 5 in the Mets system.
He's their number one prospect.
Oh,
Williams is,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I haven't actually looked. You know, like
Yeah.
I said, I've been working these crazy hours and I'm kind
Oh,
of burnt, but I'm going to guess that probably off the table when we're talking about, Luis Roberts' injury history and the almost unpalatable watch that he was for close to 2 years, right? So I won't know if they're going to be able to give that up. The other name I heard thrown out there, I want to say, is their number 3 prospect, Carson Bangy, I
yep.
believe is how you say his name. Again, another outfielder with a promising bat. Uh, I still feel like that might be a little high on Cincinnati's list, and it's going to be tough to put together. Especially since most rumors in the offseason when Luis Robert Jr. was brought up in trade talks, it was almost all 3-player packages, right? We were looking for like a top 100 guy, maybe another top 10 guy or so
Hmm.
in an organization's depth chart as far as prospects go, and then a third just to sweeten the deal. And I just don't see Tidwell and like their top two, 1, 2, 3 guys. In my
Right.
opinion, it just doesn't happen. So, like you said, is if we're not getting the right package deal for Luis Robert, is it outside the realm of possibility for the White Sox to actually keep him? Because he is doing things in the base pass. He is healthy. And it just looks like it's a matter of time before the bat comes around, in my personal opinion. But who am I?
Yeah. Right.
So,
No, I think if you have the Sox can definitely be more patient. I don't think this is now like going into the year. I think it was like, all right, we have to trade Luis Robert Jr. because the contract's going to be up here. I don't think they want to pay him $20 million next year, but like now there's certainly a world in where Chris Getz talks himself into keeping Luis Robert, especially because if you look at the depth of the organization, outfield is the least, other than first base. Like there isn't a prominent outfielder other than Braden Montgomery. Like there's some other guys, McLean, obviously Wolco's and those talks, but those guys are multiple years out. There isn't a ready center fielder for the White Sox to pluck from either of the top 2 levels in their minor league. So I think it's going to be a weird situation where I think they have to get a top 100 guy and a couple of good second pieces in that for them to strongly consider trading Luis Robert. I think they can be patient. They can wait out for a really good offer, and if they don't get it, I don't think they take it.
yeah, I agree. And just a quick update. I was watching the game here. My boy, Lenine Sosa, uh, just doubled off the wall after hitting himself a solo shot early this afternoon. I love to see it. I know some folks are a little impatient with some of his shaky D in certain situations this year, but the bat seems to be playing. He looks halfway decent on the base pass, and I just don't want to see that guy go anywhere because I think he's got more potential than people are giving him credit for. But
I've seen
anywho,
a,
when we're getting what's up?
I was going to say I've seen a lot of people discrediting Lenine Sosa. I think he's been one of the best Sox hitters. I think he's got a future at second base for the Sox. I don't know.
I mean, if you got a second baseman that's got 15 home run potential, maybe
Yeah,
more throughout the season, when's the last time we had that?
right.
Gooch,
It's been forever. Yeah.
probably. I'm trying to think. I don't remember any White Sox second baseman that in a long time that have had that kind of power potential and the potential to hit close to 300 if they can put it together. I'm not saying that I expect Lenine Sosa to hit 300, but I do believe he has the ability to do that. So,
Yeah.
and like Wolf is talking about. By the way, good evening, Wolf. Thanks for checking in. Always a pleasure. I like to see our regulars around. He says he definitely wouldn't force a trade with Robert, but some team might get desperate at the deadline. You got to sit tight if it's not what you want, and that's just kind of why the reason I even keep bringing this up is that if you're not overwhelmed and wowed, what are we really talking about here?
Right.
We're going to get rid of a guy who could potentially turn it around now that he's healthy. could potentially be a centerpiece for you to build around. And like you say, there's nobody in the minor league system right now that's overwhelmingly awesome that's going to be coming up anytime soon as far as, outfielders go. And I don't think there's anybody in the organization at all that ever profiles anywhere close to what Luis Robert did. Is an extreme talent five-tool player, whether or not he's shown it. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of can they pull it out of him? Does he still want to play for the White Sox? Is he going to be able to overcome the culture that this club may have rubbed off on him a little bit? And I'm feeling like we're seeing a bit of a turnaround this year. I feel like maybe he can find a love for baseball in a White Sox uniform again.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is if we're going to go out on the open market and look for a center fielder, I don't think you find anybody with like I said, with the upside that Luis Robert potentially brings for anywhere close to the price tag that you're going to be paying for Luis Robert as well over the next couple of years.
Yeah, he's a rare combination of guy who can hit 30 home runs, steal you. He's an easy 30-30 candidate if the power gets going while playing potentially gold glove defense and, everything. He is truly a 5-tool player if he can get the bat going, which, I mean, he's hitting the ball hard. It's just not falling right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. But again, I feel like if we're going to give Andrew Vaughn all the time in the world with the metrics of, barrels and hard hit balls and all these things that everybody's been kind of chirping about and maybe bringing him around and giving him a chance, and he's just been unlucky. I feel like that's been the first month plus of Luis Robert Jr.'s season this year. So why not give him that opportunity, especially since he's the guy who's got so much higher of a ceiling than Andrew Vaughn does, and nobody pushing him.
Yeah.
Andrew Vaughn actually has people that can come up and play his position defensively better than he can. Tim Elko, who's already up, being one of them right now. Who are we going to force? Who are we forcing out behind Luis Robert Jr.? You're not bringing Braden Montgomery up next week.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So,
and to compare, Luis to Andrew, I mean, Luis is the guy who's done it before. He finished second in MVP voting in 23.
Well,
so
yeah, there is no comparison.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah. So what else you got up on the docket for us this evening, Jacob?
Let's say trades. Shane Smith, there's been some discussion, not serious rumors that the White Sox are shopping him, but there's been talk on Twitter of like, do you trade Shane Smith? Is that a thing that you do, especially with, was the big three? Now I can't use that nickname anymore because of Grant Taylor, which again we'll hit on in a little bit. But, like where is the market for Shane Smith? I don't think they should trade him, but I do think that there's a decent look if they get a good offer for one of the other three, that being Cannon, Burke, or Martin. I think Martin is the most likely to go. Kind of what is the offer there, and do they look to move a starter here?
I'm sorry. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just gonna highlight this comment by our very own Mr. Ian Eskridge. Good evening, sir. Always a pleasure to see you. He says, well, I mean, we are moving top arms with an 0.63 ERA to closer, so maybe Montgomery does come up. And that is absolutely mind-boggling. But, some things... I saw Ian make a tweet the other day about he just doesn't understand or doesn't, remind me what that tweet was again. And he was like, maybe the people in the organization don't actually know what they're doing or something along those lines. I was like, I can't disagree. But yeah, here we are at the major league level, and we can't find the back end of the bullpen. We can't find a bullpen to keep it together for more than a game or two, which, understandable. Bullpen is a very volatile place across the league, but goodness gracious, what are we doing? So, anywho, as far as the top three goes, the big three, by the way, Davis Martin, fantastic night. Had a great night tonight. Got some big outs when they needed them. Just looked good. But I have to agree with you. I think of the current guys that are up with the club right now in the starting rotation, you can't trade Sean Burke just because of his upside potential and his age. Jonathan Cannon. I am. I'm like halfway. I'm like 50-50 on him. I say you can't trade him because I just don't think that he's shown enough to garner the package I believe he deserves. And I think that, if he continues working with Bannister, he might be a guy who can either A, stick around when these other guys come up and probably be like a 4
Yeah.
or maybe even a 5 if your starting rotation is strong enough. Or if you stick him around and you get him up to the potential that everybody's been talking about Jonathan Cannon with for a long time, I think, oh no, muff that one out in left field. Sorry, I might be a little bit behind. My stream is a little slow, but
My game's on in the other room, and it's very much behind. So I have ESPN popped up, but no video.
All right. Yeah, well, you're going to see Ellie Dela Cruz cruising to second base on an error out and left. It should be scored as an error anyway. I hope it was in and out of the glove. But anywho, yeah, Brooks Baldwin just I don't know, man. He misplayed this thing. He kind of trotted back and then had to make a jump, and it went in and out of the glove. So Wolf says it was a tough play. Hit his glove though. No, you know what made it tough was that silly slow trot instead of getting back on the ball, which, again, going back to Luis Robert, he made a play on the track earlier today. He got himself to the wall in deep center field, camped out, and then just had to make a nice slight jump after he had already been there waiting for the ball to come down. Very nice play. Not sure if it would have went out, but it was close.
880 expected batting average. Tweeted that one out.
Right. So
would have been a home run.
Just goes now. Yeah, had Brooks Baldwin done the same thing instead of trying to play it cool, my dad would have called him a hot dog for that one. He kind of just drifted and let that one. He had to jump and then let it go in and out of his glove. And now it's an 8-2 ball game after Hayes goes ahead and doubles up. So, yeah, I understand. So Ian always quick to check me. He says he agrees. Should have made the catch, but infield is his primary position, and I don't disagree. But if you're going to play outfield at the major league level, you need to be coached up enough to know that you should just be camping underneath balls you can get into, and I'll leave it at that. But yeah, you're right. Infield is his primary position.
That wasn't ruled an error, by the way. Is that like egregious? I'm obviously not watching the game. Didn't see it. Is that an egregious?
Was it not? It was not ruled.
It was
error.
It's an
well, I don't know how. Well, you know what? They're playing in Cincinnati,
right?
And the scorekeeper is being generous today. So
yeah. Anyway, anywho.
Yeah. So, are we done with the trades? Do you have any potential suitors you think you want to see grab them up?
I think there's
early in the season to be talking about this because pitching injuries and needs are going to change rapidly. But figured I'd just ask the question.
A pitcher. I know I saw a lot of people talking about Shane Smith being traded because, obviously that's the cliche. Oh, the White Sox have a good pitcher. They're going to trade him for prospects. But, I don't think Shane Smith's going to be traded. I just think it's weird. I think it's an interesting situation because in a perfect world, right? You have Schultz, Hagen Smith, Grant Taylor, maybe.
Grant Taylor.
Shane Smith, and then I think there's still hope in the organization that Drew Thorpe's going to be a 5. I just don't know. There's going to be a time where I think you're going to run out of spots for Jonathan Cannon, as well as Davis Martin. So I kind of wonder if they try to look at this trade deadline, before the logjam becomes too big of an issue. The only issue with that is obviously they're already short a starter. They're only running a 4-man rotation right now, kind of running a bullpen day. Although Schultz, I can never say his name. Jesse S. should be up here.
Schultz.
I would assume. Thank you.
Yes.
I would think he comes back in some form or facility as a rotation guy here pretty soon. But anyway, no, that was my only. That's all I want to touch on the rotation trades. Obviously, I think the packages are are way too far out. Every single contender is going to want a pitcher. I just think it is going to be something to watch as, you know, as that comes down if they do decide to trade or not a bullpen piece, a rotation guy.
Yeah, agreed. So I guess that actually brings me up since we're talking about the short starting rotation right now. Uh, you know, so nobody expected your number one free agent target this offseason, who was supposed to be the headliner in your starting rotation, to go down with Tommy John as early as he did at the beginning of the season this year. But Nissen brings up, how are we liking the opener? How are you feeling about that? I want to know. I have some thoughts of my own, but I want to hear what you have to say about the opener strategy right now.
It's worked. I like when they used it yesterday. Obviously, I think it was really smart because you didn't want to face, what was it, three. You wanted the lefty to go. You wanted to go lefty lefty for the first three batters. Um,
Oh,
so
my
I think it
bad.
was smart for Isert to um, come in for those first three, and then obviously, I think the nice thing for it is, for Cannon's sake, like you're coming in and you're already hopefully around Ellie. Um, well, maybe not. You're definitely not facing Ellie because he was going to go the first three anyway, but you're not going to have to face the top of the order. And I think it's more comfortable for those guys to go. He was able to go against 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then go back to the top of the order. So I think it's good in that way. I think it's smart. It was definitely smart, yesterday to use it. I really like when they use it's more analytically forward, which the White Sox notoriously have been very not analytically forward. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So real quick, Ian did check me. I misspoken. Martin Perez is not on a TJ cycle. He's on a 60-day flexor strain. So yeah, all right, maybe not the same thing, but again, flexor strain, he might not come back the same. Who knows if he's out for just 60 days?
I think they
And
already
what
said
kind of
he's out for the year, or he's coming back in September. But at that point, he's done.
yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those things where, yeah, exactly. I think that's why I thought that it was TJ for at the
Tommy
moment.
John
I'm
without
telling you,
Tommy
I'm
John.
fried, dude. My brain's kind of
I
all
don't
over the
blame you.
place right now, but
It's Tommy John without Tommy John.
yeah. So either way, nobody expected that. So yeah, maybe the closer or the opener to start games right now is kind of done out of necessity, and it's been working to this point for the most part anyway. Not every game they've had that they started with an opener this season is gone. Look at Brooksy go. Is that a dinger? Sure looked like it hit the yellow, or over the yellow and bounced back, but I don't know. Are they going to check it? Looks like they are. Anyway, yeah, Brooks ball went off the top of the wall and it bounced back into play, and we're gonna take a look. So, update on that one for you when we get it. If you guys are not watching, but as I was saying, ooh, I'm calling that a homer, but we'll see. Anywho, yeah, where the hell was I?
I don't remember.
I don't either. We're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch this review for a
I'm gonna
moment.
think about where we were.
Oh, the opener. Sorry.
Yeah,
Oof, man, I tell you, it's been a week, dude. It's been a week. I'm tired. My brain's fried. But yeah, the opener. My only thought about that is, even when it has worked, is we look at this bullpen and how shaky it's kind of been, and you're putting extra strain having these opener games, these bullpen games, when you've got some young pitchers that are probably only going to get you five every week, and you're going to have to start getting into the bullpen and you use the bullpen for more innings than you would like already when
yeah.
you've got your starting rotation in. So it's I don't know, it's just difficult. It's been working, but I can't see that happening for too much longer. Otherwise, you're going to basically you're going to tee off some of these arms right off the
Yeah.
bat. Early on in the season, you're going to be burnt up. Now we have been talking about the fact that we probably will see quite a bit of shakeup in the bullpen throughout the season, and I'm actually kind of shocked there hasn't been more as of late. But there's been a little bit better of a performance out of the bullpen here just in recent days as well too. So yeah, they called that a double. Hit the yellow. I guess it did not leave the yard per se, so they're going to leave him on second base.
Well, about as close as you can get. I'd be interested to see if like FanCast or StatCast has as a home run and. Oh, let me
I
pull
mean,
it
I
up.
would have called it a home run, in my opinion, but
That'd be really
that's
funny if they said it was a home run in Cincinnati.
yeah, I might be a little biased. I'm just saying,
Just a
I'd
bit.
be a little biased. So,
Oh, they say not a home run. All right. Home run
yeah,
in
no,
17 of 30 parks.
yep, yep. So there's that. Whatever, man. I mean, the fact that it was hit off the top, and we are still moving runners around with a 4-2 lead in the top of the ninth. I'll take it. Grant Taylor drops down a nice bunt after almost popping out on a bunt in the attempt before that, and moves Brooks
Grant
over to
Taylor?
third. Did I say Grant Taylor? Michael
Yeah, you
Taylor.
did.
Pardon me.
He went
No,
from
we were
closer
talking.
to a 9-hitter real quick.
We were talking about pitchers, and I'm looking at Taylor. Whatever.
I like
It
giving you
is.
crap.
Oh, dude, I told you I'm fried. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So we're just having fun with it tonight. I'm just trying to get through the show without making a complete ass of myself. Whoops, too late. But anywho, so
Where are we
since
going?
I mean, why don't we, since we brought up Grant Taylor,
Yeah, let's
you
finally
want
get into it after dancing
let's get
around it.
into that conversation. Yeah, go ahead and throw it out there, man. What do you got for us?
I think it's. Listen, Ian's going to agree with me. I think it's insane. I understand, I'm really not sure what the plan is, and we won't know what the plan is for a while. Are they putting him in the bullpen to fast track him to the majors and trying to do the whole Garrett Crochet, Michael Kopech type thing, or are they?
Chris Tail. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the plan here? Because this feels like Crochet and Kopech at least made a little bit of sense because you're contending. Kopech, you weren't contending, but Crochet, you were. But why force him now? There's no reason to. You're horrible. You're a bad baseball team. Fun bad, I'll admit it. But and I understand the bullpen's awful, but I just I don't get it. There's no reason to. Even if you're gonna slow him down and you're just trying to get him out of the bullpen to get more regular. I don't know. I'm not a pitcher guy, but it's such a weird thing to have a guy who has such a good ERA. And I get it. He hasn't been going deep in games anyway. He's not getting past the third inning, and that's fine because it's his first, major season. You're seeing it with Hagen Smith. It takes going from a college load to a professional, workload. It takes a lot. But it's just such a weird thing. Listen, I've been a Chris Getz supporter. It's a rare sight in this fan base, but this is certainly interesting. I don't know if this was a Getz decision or a Bannister decision. I get it. Listen, he matches the profile, flamethrower. But it's certainly interesting to move a starting pitching prospect to probably definitely wasn't going to be doing it next year, but probably the year after that. As Ian's talking a little bit about it, not being allowed to go past 3 innings. Yeah, I mean,
40 pitches in
right.
every outing. 40 pitches or less in all of those outings, 3 innings or less.
A .63 ERA. Like, I don't get the move to the bullpen. It doesn't make sense to me because you have so many other pitchers right now that you're going to move to the bullpen. There's a ton of them. Grant Taylor doesn't need to be one of them. He's got legit ace potential. I mean, he's one of 3 guys in the Sox system that have legit ace potential. And to move him to a closer role, I don't get it. I mean, I understand that the bullpen is depleted, but you are awful. You're not going anywhere this year. You're not going anywhere next year. And I think when you start to look at it, the season after that is probably when Grant Taylor probably could have made an impact in the starting rotation for the White Sox. So, yeah, I get it like a little bit like you're trying to manage his workload, but you're already doing that with his starts. So I would have kept him on that track. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about it, but just a bizarre circumstance of a very interesting Scott Merkin tweet.
Yeah, here's my thought, and I'll keep it short and sweet. You know me, I can get to rambling too. So before we go down that road, uh, you touched on it already when we talk about ramping up from that college workload to an MLB workload, and the terminology that you hear thrown around all the time is getting a guy stretched out, right? Getting a guy to go from only throwing 100 innings or less a year. In a lot of cases, starters are getting 65, 70 innings a year, and then they're going. By the time you get to the major league level, or even as a professional in the minors, you're getting more than that. And then you go up to the major league ball club level, where you're getting anywhere between 150 and 180 innings a year, and hopefully trying to stay healthy. It doesn't sound like a lot to somebody who's never been a pitcher before, but it's a huge toll on your arm, and you've got to work up. You got to condition yourself to that point. And like you said, with the potential that he holds in being a potential ace, we talk about Hagen Smith and we talk about Noah Schultz, and Grant Taylor's right in there with these guys. He could be just legitimate superstar, and you're not actually giving him the workload to stretch himself out and to get himself conditioned to be able to work as a starter at a major league level. It feels like a really, really strange move. Like they just decided we're going to stick him in the bullpen. And then what are you going to do in the bullpen? Are you going to come out because you're only going to get, you're at the back end, you're only going to get one inning, maybe bring him in for a 4 or 5, even 6 out save once in a while. He's going to come out gunning. You know what I mean? I don't have to go more than an inning. I don't have to go more than 2 innings. Like I can come out just screaming, throwing everything I got. Now you're talking about a guy who's not conditioned and maybe does do some damage.
Yeah.
I don't really see the need to push somebody with such high expectations onto a team that might win 60 games this year if they put something together. And that's a big maybe if they were to go on some sort of, let's say, I mean, like you said, they are playing 500 ball so far in May. They might actually get over 500 today. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. But we're looking at 1 out to go here. I'm sorry, 1 out to go in the top of the 9th. We've got to get a couple of outs, and this ball game's over, and the White Sox go over 500 in the month of May to start out the month. So it just doesn't make sense to me. I think a lot of us are scratching our heads. As fun as it might be to see them, now's not the time.
Yeah. No, and we'll see. Obviously, like I said, I think it depends a little more if it makes sense if they don't fast track him, and for some reason he's just coming out of the bullpen in the minors, and there's still a hope to move him to rotation next year, staying in the minors. But if it is truly the Garrett Crochet, Michael Kopech, Chris Sale track of like we're going to move this guy into the major league bullpen at some point this year, I think that's a major mistake. Obviously, it worked for Crochet, but like that was a totally different situation because he had Tommy John, and then he had recovered. He had a long recovery process from Tommy John, and then kind of had to come back and then was fully stretched out over a winter. So just a very weird situation. Obviously, I know Grant Taylor was, and maybe there's some medical stuff there. I'm not sure. Obviously, Taylor freshly kind of coming off of Tommy John. Thank you, Trey.
Trey, you the man. Always a pleasure to see you. And yeah, Miguel Vargas fan club. We'll get into that. I'll let Jacob finish his thought, but
100%.
we'll
But
get into that a little bit.
yeah, I just don't know if I understand that he was a reliever in college more than Crochet had some starter, but yeah, I just don't get it completely. I mean, like I said, the only thing that makes sense is potentially there's stuff that obviously only the White Sox would know, such as injury stuff. Maybe they're seeing a dip in the velo. I haven't looked in that deep into it, but I just other than that this move makes no sense to move him back into the bullpen for what is assumed the rest of the year potentially flying up the minors.
And I love your want to justify it on the Sox end by saying maybe the Sox are seeing something that we don't. Maybe there's something with the injury history, a drop in the velo. But
Right.
I'm gonna stop that train right there because if that's the case, man, just let them hang them up for a while.
Right. Yeah.
If we're seeing potential drops in velo, that tells me there's something else going on, and I do not want to see this guy on the south side blowing his arm out before. What are you laughing at, man? What do we miss?
Trey's comment, Mike Vasilin for the save.
Oh, yeah, Vassal. It's yeah.
Oh yeah, Vassal.
And,
Thank you,
no, you're good. Close enough. Whatever.
Vasil.
I
Vassal.
mean, but there's no reason that he should be coming in for the save right now. But again, bullpen has been depleted with starters and openers and bullpen games and whatnot. And I know somebody, I think it was Tossed, who said, why do they use the same handful of guys every day? Well, here you go, Tossed. Here's somebody we haven't seen in a couple of games. Let's see if he can come out and get these last couple outs and not blow this game like Ian was saying. It would be absolutely atrocious. So, yeah. Is it possible Vassal's traded? I mean, anything's possible. When you get into the trade deadline or, a little bit before the trade deadline, when you got some teams that are in the hunt that maybe thought they weren't in the hunt or looking for a little bit of depth in the bullpen, sure, why not? I don't know what you get for them. Probably not a lot.
Right.
I don't know.
Listen, the question is if blank is going to be traded at the deadline. Just I don't know if he was a top prospect. No, like if he's what Mydroth, who's legitimately not going to be traded. Mydroth, Vargas, Caro. That's where the list ends. I think like those three are the only thing. Like if anybody else got traded, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Legitimately,
who doesn't get traded? You're probably right. I think it probably does end there. I can't think of anybody, outside of maybe some of the young guys that they're, in the starting rotation of the bullpen that they kind of see things in. But I wouldn't count any of those guys out either because if the package is good enough, I mean, this White Sox team has showed us, even since Chris Guess is taking over, that nobody's safe.
yeah,
Nobody's safe. If there's a big enough deal, look, I've been saying it for years. If you are an MLB GM, you have to approach everything like nobody is off the table.
yeah,
You have to at least listen. If you're not listening, you're not doing your job. Now, does that mean you go out and you try to make deals that maybe aren't there? You try to force some deals. You try to fight back and forth. I don't know, but I mean, when you hear GMs come out and say nobody's off the table, I think that's all they mean. It just means that we're going to have conversations about everybody. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean we're going to trade the guys that we're talking about.
yeah.
So, yeah, anything's possible. So, oh yeah, and Trey says Dice should be dealt. We did talk about that a little bit earlier in the show. I think if anybody on this roster, especially with some of the other catchers in the system, Corey Lee.
Corey
Golly.
Taylor.
I'm looking at Taylor's on the screen. I'm just screwing up all the Taylors. Yeah, not the lead singer from Slipknot or Stone Sour. No, Corey Lee, the catcher for the White Sox, who's making his way back. Yeah, when he comes up, they might carry 3 for a while, and I do think maybe Tice will probably be dealt at some point, especially since he did some things that I don't think a lot of folks expected to start
Yeah.
this season. So. All right, man. We're about 55, 56 minutes here into the show. We've got one out and a man on first. I think we'll hang out long enough to see this last out. Let's get some
Hot takes and heaters?
hot takes and heaters in, And so, guys, since we got a couple minutes here left, the chat, we are always up for your hot takes and your heaters at the end of the show every Wednesday when we are live. First off, we said thank you already to Trey, but for those who are listening, Trey hit us with our first super chat in a while. So thank you for that, Mr. Williams. Always a pleasure to see you. Always a pleasure to talk. Man, the guy comes up with some really great stuff in the chat. But, right now, it is a 1-1 count with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth. So we'll see what Mr. Vassell can do here.
They didn't blow it. Oh, I just spoiled it for you. I'm very sorry. Well, Trey would have.
Here it is.
Trey would have ruined it anyway.
Yeah, that's a White Sox winner. We are 1 game over 500 in the month of May, 7-6, and yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and answer your question. The question that we opened the show with almost an hour ago: are the White Sox fun bad? I'm gonna say yes, and I'm gonna even go and say maybe they're not as bad as we think they are anymore. They are.
Listen, they have
They
a
are.
brutal schedule. I don't
How
want to
about
be
fun improving?
I don't want to rain on their parade, but it's bad. Like they play the Cubs and then the Mariners, the Mets to round out the month, and then don't look at June. Just do not look at June. It's pretty ugly.
All right. So before we get into our hot takes and heaters, Trey has a hot take of his own, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I want to get your opinion on it. He says his hot take is Miguel Vargas is a part of the core. I'm not so sure if Miguel Vargas, I don't know if I would call that a hot take.
Yeah, I don't think
He continues to do what he's been doing. I mean, he's on an absolute tear right now, but what do you think?
I don't know if he's part of the core at third base, but I think he's definitely part of the core somewhere. I don't think there's any way. Well, I mean, there's definitely a way he doesn't become part of the core, but I mean, he's definitely doing great things right now. He thinks he's the best Sox best hitter on the year if you get rid of the first month. So, yeah, Miguel Vargas officially won that trade. By the way, I'll put a stamp
Oh, I was waiting for it all night. But yeah, you know what? So I've been hard on him for a long time. I've been hard on all the people that were big on him, and I'm glad to, continue to wear that I was probably wrong. The swing change has been pretty awesome. He's been pretty phenomenal
Yeah.
since then. So yeah. And as it was mentioned in the chat, he's not. It's not supposed to be a hot take. He was supposed to be part of the core when that trade was made. So let's just hope that he keeps rolling and doing what he's doing. Thank you, Miguel, for making me wrong. These are the moments that I love and live for to be wrong in. And as a White Sox fan, you love to see it. You love to see it. Make me wrong. Make me change my old curmudgeonly ways when it comes to this White Sox baseball team. So. All right.
100%.
Let's go ahead and you want to go ahead and shoot your hot takes and heaters out there for the world.
Well, my hot take's been spoiled. My hot take is they finish over 500 in the month of May, which, again, that's finish.
There's nothing spoiling about that. We got to watch a White Sox win on stream, so
I think we have to watch. But I was just talking about the rest of the schedule. I do think they finished the month of May about 500.
All right, that's a good hot take. I'm sorry. Are you calling that a hot take or a heater?
Hot take.
Hot take. They finished the and then they get through the month of May over 500. Just May schedule.
Yes, correct.
All right. How about heater?
Shout out the bullpen. I'm gonna give the bullpen some love. Brandon Eisert, 2.08 ERA in May. Cam Booster, 1.80 ERA in May. Tyler Gilbert, 0 ERA in May. And Vasil, 351 before the recording of today's episode. That has now gone down after the save in the 9th today.
Right on. Right on. I'm good with that. Like I said, as of late, the bullpen has been a little bit more stable, and I'm all here for it. And again, happy to be wrong, but we kind of knew there was going to be some shakeups here and there, and I wasn't expecting Grant Taylor to be part of that. But we'll see. We'll see how the rest of this plays out.
Yeah.
All right. My hot take this week is kind of I'm going to say that God, see, I had a couple, and I don't want to piggyback on last week's. I'm gonna kind of piggyback on last week's and just throw out there that even with all these Luis Robert Jr. Rumors, he stays with the team. It might be my hot take of the season, so I'm probably going to run over that until either A, he does get traded, or B, the trade deadline passes and he's still in a White Sox uniform. So I'm just going to continue to throw that one out there. Hot take 1B is going to be that I don't believe the Mets, as much as they might have some outfield woes right now with some injuries, they do have a great defender on their team who might be a little shaky at the bat, and I don't know they're going to be willing to pay the prospect price for Luis Robert Jr. if they haven't been able to show any success. They still don't have that coveted commissioner's trophy after Steve Cohen went out and dumped, what was it, $1.4 billion in the offseason a year ago? Or no, that was the Dodgers, wasn't it?
3 years ago, they spent a ton of money on Verlander and Scherzer or something like that.
Yeah, either way,
I mean, they get Soto.
Their payroll is redonkulous, and unless they start getting results, I just don't see that continuing to happen the way it has been. And I don't think they're going to give up the prospect capital for Luis Robert Jr. to come in and maybe not be who they expect them to be.
Yeah,
just my thought. Heater, I'm going with my man who had a game tonight with a home run, a double, a couple of runs scored, and played solid defense, Mr. Lenin Shosha.
Shosha?
Yeah, he didn't have any errors tonight. You want to check that?
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm a Lenin Sosa guy. I'm not fighting you on that.
All right. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. I've been a fan of his since day one, since he was a skinny little kid that you won't even recognize now, to the player he's become, and I'm going to beat that drum till the day he's either not on the White Sox or, till the day he's a solid everyday player that we can stop questioning.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone in the chat for checking in. Special shout out to Trey Williams for the super chat. As you know, anytime you see a Future Sox stream go live here on YouTube or the Purple at, super chats are open. We do appreciate all and any donations. If you like the content and do not want to, donate to the super chat, do us a big favor. Those likes, those subscriptions, those noties, smash those buttons. Those do help us out with the algos. If you are into our written content, you can find that on FutureSox.net. And you can also subscribe to our Patreon there for our exclusive content and prospect write-ups. Every Wednesday night, you can find Jacob and myself right here on FutureSox Hot Takes and Heaters. We also have James and Ian with the Future Sox podcast, as well as Elijah, Jeff, and Dylan doing some of the prospect roundup. Check out all our blogs. Check out all our writers. Subscribe to us on Twitter X at Future Sox. For my co-host, Jacob Thome, my name is Danny Miller. You guys have a good night. This has been Hot Takes and Heaters, and as always, go White Sox.